According to Bible prophecy, we know that the Antichrist will rule over a socialistic one-world government in the end time. Now, this is very sobering, and I know that. But it's something that we have to consider for the times just ahead. And like I said, it all sounds good now. It's just, they're just promising, one of the candidates said, I just don't think anybody ought to live poor. I think they ought to live up, on the scale of everybody else, and everybody ought to be equal. Well, what if they don't want to work as hard as other people? Do they deserve the same amount as somebody who's willing to go to work every day and work a 40-hour week? Or put overtime in to try to get ahead? That kind of society never works. And another thing is that nothing comes free. Nothing is free. Somebody has to work for everything. If you get a free health care benefit, somebody has to work to pay for that. It doesn't just come off of a tree somewhere. And so we've really got to look at this thing as a whole. So, socialism, when I'm coming up to a break, when we get back from the break, we'll get into some of the history behind all of this, because we've got to look at the historical accounts to see what's coming in the near future. And believe me, what's coming in the future is going to be worse than what we've seen in the past, according to the Bible prophecy. So we'll talk about it when we get back.
We are living in one of the greatest times of human history. We are just before the second coming of Jesus Christ. There are close to 1,000 prophecies concerning this time. Yet, the Scriptures tell us that most people will miss the second coming of Jesus. You do not want to miss this. You can understand the times we live in and what is just ahead. You can share the information with others. Know the truth about Bible prophecy. The Understanding the End Time series was designed to help you learn the prophecies in easy-to-understand terms. 14 hours of teaching about the mark of the beast, World War III, Islam in Bible prophecy, and so much more. Equip yourself today by going to endtime.com or call 1-800-ENDTIME. That's 1-800-363-8463 to get your Understanding the End Time series. The End Time Prophecy Tour was the most wonderful tour. I would like to thank Irvin and Judy Baxter for a fabulous trip to Israel. I know it took much effort and planning to make it successful. What a tremendous time we all had, which warrants a great big thank you. You can't encapsulate it into words. You can't capture it with a photograph. You just have to experience Israel yourself. The Queen of Sheba said, "The half has not been told." I concur. What an awesome experience to visit the land of Bible history and see it come alive as you walk its paths. I shall be forever changed. Dale from Louisiana.
Join us October 25th through November 5th, 2018. You too can experience Israel with Irvin and Judy Baxter. Go to endtime.com or call 1-800-ENDTIME. That's 1-800-363-8463 to sign up today.
You know, everyone, there's all kinds of prophecy happening. Many of them are being fulfilled as we speak. But this is a very important one to me going forward. I mean, I live in America. All of my family lives here. And so they're all important, but you understand what I'm saying? I mean, think about it. Socialism in America. It's something we've got to consider. The historical accounts of socialism are horrific. Now, if you're just coming through school, just getting out of high school, college and things, they may not have taught you so much that socialism and about socialism and how horrific it is, and where it ends up. And so that would lead to somebody saying, you know what, man, this socialism sounds pretty good. I'm not as scared of it as I used to be. But it's not where it starts, but it's where it leads to. So, and really, according to the Bible, however, once the satanically inspired end-time world leader, this Antichrist, takes the reins of this future world government, which will be socialistic, communistic, It's going to be worse than any empire or government that has preceded it. Very, very important that you understand that. It's not going to end up good. So it's something you will not want to be a part of. So let's talk about that. Socialism. Socialism, I'll be 50 years old here in about 2 weeks. And I remember being taught about it in school. I remember the Cold War ended, 89 to 90, 91 in there. I graduated high school in 1986. So I remember the Cold War and thinking in the back of my mind, could Russia push a button? Are we going to push a button? I remember the Cold War. Not as much as my father-in-law. I mean, he was on this stuff way back then. But I remember in the back of my mind him talking about it. It was a bad thing. People my age looked at socialism, communism as, we had the Red Scare earlier on and different things that happened in this country. We didn't want anything to do with socialism, communism. Well, the fact of the matter is that socialism, I've had people tell me, socialism and communism have nothing to do with each other. That's not true. Socialism leads to communism. I don't think I need to spend much time here because really history speaks for itself. However, judging by the political atmosphere, i.e. open socialists being elected to office in the United States of America, I still never thought I'd say that. I think it bears mentioning. And over time, socialism in America has become a not so scary word. And to my generation and beyond, I never thought I'd say that because I remember, I know history. And I don't want that here. I don't want to be a part of it. You say, well, but they're promising free stuff, Dave. Come on, you guys. Nothing's free. If you just think about it rationally, somebody's got to pay for it. Now, they're saying we need to tax the rich and da-da-da. It's wealth redistribution. I'm not going to get off into what it's all about. But the fact of the matter is that it's not going to come free. And so all of those promises, it's all about bigger governmental control. And it's what it all will lead to. Because if you depend upon the more you depend upon the government, the more the government controls you. You see what I'm saying? Nothing comes free. There's always strings attached with everything. So less government is better. More government, bad. Okay? So maybe it's the fact, it's become not such a scary word here in America. Maybe it's the fact that we've had social programs for years here in America, and yet the sky hasn't fallen. Welfare and food stamps, different things. But yet the sky hasn't fallen yet, so we get to thinking, we kind of get lulled into a sense of complacency and say, well, it's not so bad as I thought. Remember what I said, it's not where it starts, but it's where it will lead to. That's the problem. And the Bible prophesies that this end-time one-world government led by the Antichrist is going to be socialistic or communistic, the worst ever. So, or could it be, we're not scared of it anymore? Could it be that the Cold War ended almost 30 years ago now, and we simply don't feel threatened by the red theology anymore here in America? Or perhaps it's simply that we have not educated the next generation of the horrors that socialism can lead to. And believe me, they're sobering. I'll talk about it here in just a moment. You go back to some of that stuff. I'm actually writing an article on this for our next magazine, and I'm publishing an article that I got from the Independent that talks about some of the things that happened to those individuals. Folks, we don't want any part of this in America, I promise you. Now, I'm not sure when this transition happened, where people felt okay with socialism here in America. But alarmingly, it has happened to many people. Fox News reported that the Democratic Socialists of America, and yes, there's a Democratic Socialist movement of America, a Socialist USA and Communist USA parties. So there are people that are here, and their goal is to do away with the capitalistic society that has made us the greatest economic nation on the planet, and do away with that and bring in socialistic principles. More government controlling the people. That's what it boils down to. So the Democratic Socialists of America, their paid membership hovered around 6,000 in the year just before President Trump's election. But by just a few weeks ago, it had risen to 45,000 paid members supporting the Democratic Nationalists of America nationwide. So you can see, man, they're just, 45,000 people. You say, oh, that's not much. We've got over 300 million. Well, no, the fact of the matter is, it's how quick. It's taking off. It's like a hockey stick. People are starting to fund this and support it. Also, there are 42 candidates across 20 states that are running for offices at the federal, state, and local levels this year with the endorsement of the Democratic Socialist of America. 42. And that's why it's called, it's not socialism. They're not going to come in and just set everything up and say, hey, this is the way it's going to be. It's not communism where they're going to come in by military and implement everything. It's democratic. So we'll just vote everybody in. We'll make it all sound great. We'll promise you a bunch of stuff, and we'll get everybody to vote it in. Go on the democratic system. So it's called Democratic Socialist of America. And a 2016 Gallup poll found, get this, that 55% of those then aged from 18 to 29 said that they had a positive view of socialism. 55%. And then a recent YouGov study commissioned by the Victims of Communism Memorial Foundation, they found that 44% of millennials, those I think they're like 18 to 35, that they would prefer to live in a socialist country. And for somebody to be able to do that, they can't have they don't know their history. They can't. Why would you want to go live in, okay, who listening to me, let me ask you a question. Who would want to go live in Venezuela today? Or in communist China? Or in North Korea? Who would want to go live in that? Well, I don't want that here for the United States. You say, but these are democratic socialists. They're not the same thing as full-blown socialist or communist. There's really not much difference, everybody. It's really not. At the end of the day, it's more governmental control over supposedly free individuals here in the United States. We do not want that. I want less governmental control. I want to govern myself. And so, but my goal today is Bible prophecy. And so, and where this is all leading, I know where it's going. And that's why I'm issuing a warning today. We don't want that here in the United States. Because I know we're the end-time world government. I know exactly where we're headed. This end-time world government is going to be a socialistic, communistic, one-world governing body. So, with that said, and knowing what Bible prophecies, that it prophesies for the end time, I think we should take a step back and remember the dangers that the full implementation of the socialistic ideology can lead to. And you may not know this guy, but his name's Marion Smith. He's the director of the Victims for Communism Memorial Foundation in Washington, and in Washington, D.C., I should say. And in a recent article in the Political magazine, he stated the Bolshevik Revolution, 1917, in Russia, showed the danger of combining socialistic ideas with totalitarian violence. Very important, because it starts out nice. You say, well, what about Europe and all these others? I'm telling you, it starts out nice. You realize Vladimir Lenin started out as a socialist, a democratic socialist. And look where all that led to. So they started out as socialist, ended up way out, steeped off into communism. And they're married. And so the combining socialist ideas with totalitarian violence, it created modern totalitarian communism. And because it's revolution. It's all about, us against the capitalist. This capitalistic society, there's the haves and the have-nots, and we don't want that. We want everybody to be equal with a governmental control over everything. That's where we're headed, and I don't want that here in the United States. I want less government. I want my freedom to pursue the American dream. So it was Bolshevik leader Vladimir Lenin who expressed a sort of unifying theory, finally achieving Marx's goals. And listen at this statement. In 1917, Vladimir Lenin said, "In striving for socialism, we are convinced it will develop into communism." We want governmental control. A socialist, if they're educated on their talking points, their goal is communism. Now, they may not tell you that, but they want, or I should say, more governmental control over society. They may not say the word communism. It's like people with global warming have changed to climate change and then different things. Now, well, they may not say communism, but that's where their mind is going, is more governmental control over the people. But we're going to sell it to you as free stuff. We're going to give you free health care and free college and free this, that, and the other. But I promise you, everybody, look back through history, there's strings attached to everything. And the result, in more than 40 national experiments since 1917, has been either totalitarian dictatorship or economic collapse. And it has cost approximately 100 million lives before the communist experiment collapsed in over the last century in Europe and the Soviet Union. Europe and the Soviet Union, Europe right now, think about the European Union. They're very well versed in this stuff. And I'm telling you, according to Bible prophecy, you say, well, hey, they're growing up economically and people are all happy over there. There's a lot of those nations that do not want to relinquish their sovereignty to the European Union. They don't want to. And so that's why they're talking about a two-tiered and everything. I mean, everybody's not as happy as they're all making it out to be. The leaders are, but the people aren't. So history has repeatedly shown that socialism leads to economic collapse, totalitarian regimes, and death. Now, some might say, well, hold on, Dave. Not here in America. I mean, come on. Well, not so fast. The Communist Party USA. Now, you say, what, Communist Party USA? Yes, there's a Communist Party USA. Let's talk about their party program. What do they want to do here? Well, listen at this. In 2005, the National Committee of the Communist Party USA, this is all online. They're not really trying to hide it. They'll tell you this, right? Here's what we're trying to do. In 2005, they approved the final text of their party program. Here's what we want to do. The following that I'm going to get to is a few excerpts from that text that you need to hear and I need to hear as American citizens. And I know there's people listening all over the world. I understand that, and you just have to bear with me because I'm talking about America today, okay? Because I don't want to see this implemented here. But I'm going to read to you a few excerpts from that text, their party program, the Communist Party USA, their party program, which clearly reveals their intentions. Okay, now listen at this. You say, not here in America. Listen to what they're trying to do here in America. And Democratic Socialists, a lot of them are saying the same thing. Socialist Party USA, it's all about bigger government. At the end of the day, more governmental control over the people. Now, they'll say, no, my ideas are simply, I think that the man on the bottom ought to be equal with the guy on the top, and I'm going to give him free stuff along the way. That all sounds great. That's not the goal. There's ulterior motives behind all of it. When you're pitching on the stump, that's one thing. And so, listen at some of these excerpts from the Communist Party USA, their party program. They say, and I quote, "The struggles for the immediate demands and reforms needed," remember, socialism, communism, it's all about revolution, revolt, change. So they say, reforms needed by the working people today are essential towards our ultimate goals of the revolutionary transformation. This is their goal. They're telling you right up front. Our revolutionary goal of transformation of the society and economy, listen to this, towards socialism and then communism. But some people would say, but socialism has nothing to do with communism. Look at history. Go study this stuff. You'll see what I'm saying is absolutely true. Go to the Communist Manifesto and see how many times the word socialism is mentioned in there. So, another excerpt from the Communist Party USA, their party program is, socialism would bring this is the goal here. Remember, I told you that there's strings attached to everything. When they go to their party program, it's not about just handing over free stuff. They say socialism would bring social ownership or government ownership of the commanding heights of the economy, the major industrial firms. Imagine our factories owned and ran by the government. The transnational corporations, banks, government ownership of the banks and other financial institutions, the energy industry. Imagine the 3 electrical grids here in the United States being owned by the government. Would they not have you under control? I promise you they would. Much of the national distribution system and the healthcare system, and run them as a public utilities, i.e. Obamacare, with publicly, that's why I said the Obama administration was socialistic, folks. And then elected boards responsible to and for the public good and the long-term economic and environmental sustainability. And then I'm going to hold right there because I want to make sure you get this next part because it'll affect all of us. And I pray this is not implemented here in the United States. I don't believe it's going to be, but I'm warning you today, we don't want any part in this.
Move Mountains with Irvin Baxter, the new book by Irvin's grandson, provides 30 days of devotion that will enhance your connection to God and others. Authentic illustrations from early morning devotions at Endtime will help you find your purpose and eliminate fears. Commit to taking this 30-day journey and experience real life change. Order this brand new book for only $14.99. Call 1-800-363-8463 or go to endtime.com/move.
We have some exciting news for you today. We have created a new lesson that exposes the establishment. 3 sinister forces are trying to maneuver the United States into a system of global governance. Who is the mastermind behind these organizations? These forces, which are controlled by Satan the Dragon, will work hand in hand with the Antichrist, and Americans are fighting back. What is the master plan? Where do things stand right now? We rip the covers off of Satan's hidden agenda and give you answers to all of these questions in Master Plan of the Dragon. Arm yourself with the knowledge to combat these forces. Go to endtime.com to receive your copy today or call 1-800-ENDTIME. That's 1-800-363-8463.
If your station only carries the first 30 minutes of End of the Age, go to endtime.com and click the watch button to continue today's broadcast. You can also finish up later by clicking the archive button.
So here's what I'm going to do, because I want to make sure you get this. And then I'm going to get off into the prophecy here in just a moment. But let me repeat something I just said, and then I'll come right back to where I was at. And you got to think about this when you think about socialism in the United States of America. This is on the communist. So Communist Party USA is to implement socialism on the way to communism in our country, okay? Remember that. Socialism on the way to communism. So here's what they would like to see happen. Socialism would bring social ownership or governmental ownership to the commanding heights of the economy, the major industrial firms, the transnational corporations, banks, and other financial institutions, the energy industry, much of the national distribution system, and the healthcare system, and run them as public utilities with publicly elected boards responsible to and for the public good and for long-term economic and environmental sustainability. And then listen at this, and this might sound a little familiar. Public programs for free health care. Sound familiar? Free education through the college level. Man, I've heard people talk about that over the weekend. Combating illiteracy, ending malnutrition, and guaranteed jobs would be built. Does any of that sound familiar? Anybody talking about that in the news right now? That's the goal of the Communist Party USA, folks. Now, another excerpt from this party program of the Communist Party USA. Communists advocate socialism as the first phase of a new stage of society. So they say, we're not going to jump right in and say, yeehaw, we're going to turn America into a communist country. They advocate socialism as the first phase of a new stage of society. But they say, and I'm quoting, but they don't think that socialism and economic development will end at socialism. We see socialistic society eventually leading to a higher phase, communism, where the capitalist class and all classes will have disappeared. So all that free stuff sounds wonderful. But at the end of the day, it's where it all leads. That's the problem. And I know where it's going to lead because I understand the prophecies of the Bible. The Antichrist, one world governing body, is going to be socialistic, communistic. And it's going to be worse than anything we've ever seen. Why would you want that here in America? Why? I don't. One last excerpt from the Communist Party USA. The party's role will include agitation and propaganda for a fully developed socialist society on the way to communism. It's not where it starts out, folks. It's where it leads to. That's the problem. So, yes, Mr. Vladimir Lenin, history does prove that you were correct in your assumption. In striving for socialism, we are convinced it will develop into communism. It has many times before, and according to the prophecies of the Bible, it's about to do it again. So, you say, how can you prove all that, Dave? Well, the history, number one. Number two, I understand the prophecy. So let's get off into the prophecy. Let me show you what I'm talking about. The kingdom of the Antichrist, the world government. Revelation chapter 13, verse 1 through 8, describes the end-time world government and its ruler, the beast. They're both referred to as the beast in Revelation 13, 1 through 8. Also in those scriptures, along with them, is the spiritual being from which they will derive their power. So, our understanding of this prophecy begins all the way back 2,500 years ago in the book of Daniel. In Daniel 7, the prophet Daniel was given a vision of 4 beasts. Most of you are going through JPC, you've heard us for years, you understand this. The prophet Daniel was given a vision of 4 beasts that represented kingdoms or nations that would exist at the time of the second coming of Jesus Christ. We're there. I mean, we're just a few years away from the second coming with all of them. And you say, well, how do you say that? You just rolled off your tongue. Because of all the prophecies that are happening right now. Everything that's supposed to happen just prior to the second coming, it's either already been fulfilled. Look at the timeline I put in the last magazine. I give all the fulfilled prophecies from the Messiah till now. And then we're watching precursors to the ones that are ahead of us. So we're right there, everybody. And the 4 beasts in Daniel 7 that were described, Daniel 7, verse 4 through 7, they're modern nations, and they symbolize the lion with eagle's wings, which is Great Britain and the United States. a bear, which is Russia. This is a vision Daniel saw in Daniel 7. A four-headed leopard, which is Germany. And a 10-horned beast, which is the reborn Holy Roman Empire or the current European Union. Jump forward 650 years. In Revelation 13, 1 through 2, John uses these same symbols as nations to describe the end-time world government. In John's account, the four separate nations of Daniel 7 have federalized into one large global governing body, and the interpretation of those two verses is like this. And John said, "And I stood up on the sand of the sea, saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads, 10 horns, and upon his horns, which would be the European Union, the 10 horns, were 10 crowns. And upon his heads the name of blasphemy. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard," Germany. "The feet were as the feet of the bear," the Russia. "Mouth of the lion," Great Britain. "And the dragon," or Satan, "gave him his power, seat, and great authority." So this 7-headed, 10-horned beast is symbolic of the world government that is currently being established. Very important. The next question, who's the ruler? Because this Revelation 13, 1 through 8 describes when it talks about the beast, the world government, and the ruler. So the ruler of the end-time world government is mentioned many times in Scripture. Of these, I'm only going to focus on 2. I don't have time. There's no way I can go through it exhaustively. Perhaps we'll go through it a million times on future programs. But for today's discussion, I'm only going to focus on 2. And I want you to notice the correlation between the prophet Daniel's vision in Daniel 7 and John's in the book of Revelation. So the Bible says he will speak great things. In Daniel 7:8, the Antichrist is referred to as the little horn speaking great things. Daniel 7:8 says, "There came up among them another little horn, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots, and behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking great things." Remember that. Jump to Revelation 13:5. Remember, they're talking about the same thing. The little horn, or the Antichrist in Daniel 7, the beast in Revelation 13. So in Revelation 13:5, he is the beast speaking great things. "And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things." Then it says he makes war with the saints. In Daniel 7:21, the little horn will make war with the saints. It says, "I beheld, and the same horn made war with the saints and prevailed against them." Jump to Revelation 13:7, they're talking about the same thing. The beast makes war with the saints. Bible says in 13:7, "And it was given unto him to make war with the saints." See the correlation here? Daniel was talking about the exact same individual as John in Revelation 13. And then the Bible says that this individual will reign for 3.5 years. In Daniel 7:25, the little horn has power for 3.5 years. It says, "And they shall be given unto his hand until a times, and the dividing of time." That's 3.5 years. Then in Revelation 13:5, the beast reigns for 3.5 years. It says, "And power was given unto him to continue 42 months. That's 3.5 years as well. And then finally, the Bible says that this individual will blaspheme God. In Daniel 7:25, the little horn blasphemes God. It says, "And he shall speak great words against the Most High." Revelation 13:6 says, "The beast will blaspheme God." It says, "And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God." One more that goes off of Revelation 13, but it proves Daniel 7. "He will be cast into the lake of fire." At the time of the second coming of Jesus Christ, prophecies tell us that the Antichrist will be cast into the lake of fire. Daniel 7:11, the little horn is going to be cast into the lake of fire. It says, "I beheld then, because of the voice the great words spake, which the horn spake, I beheld even till the beast." So right here it calls him the beast. I beheld even till the beast was slain, his body destroyed and given to the burning flame. Notice, very important, that in Daniel 7, the little horn is referred to as the beast. It's very important. It's telling us who this individual is. It's the same one, same person, the Antichrist, along with all the other plethora of prophecies in the Bible about him. Then you go to Revelation 19:20, the beast is cast into the lake of fire, not the little horn, the beast. And it says, and the beast was taken, and with him the false prophet that wrought miracles before him, with which he deceived them that had the mark of the beast, and them that worshipped his image. These both, the beast and the false prophet, were cast alive into the lake of fire burning with brimstone. So from these passages, it's very clear to see that the ruler of the end-time world government beast mentioned in the book of Revelation is the exact same person as the little horn found in Daniel 7. He's the Antichrist. In Revelation 13, who's the dragon? Well, while referencing the end-time one-world government and its ruler, the Antichrist, Revelation 13:2 says, and the dragon gave him his power, seat, and great authority. So there are two verses in the Bible which define the dragon. Revelation 12:9, and the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. Then Revelation 20, verse 2, it says, and he laid hold on the dragon and that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him for 1,000 years. So the dragon is Satan. So you say, well, how does this prove? I mean, how can you prove that this end-time world government ruled by this Antichrist figure is going to be a socialistic kingdom? Because this is my warning today, is that we wouldn't implement this here in the United States. And I think according to prophecy, we can prove that we won't. But we've got to be warned about this. So, you got to watch, what kind of political system do we want here in the United States? And so, because honestly, people are buying into this lock, stock, and barrel. I gave some statistics early on that there are people, the younger generation, a lot of them, that would be okay living in a socialistic country. And I'm sitting there going, you got to be kidding me. Why in the world you would want to go live in a Venezuela? Or, now they would say, oh, I'd like to go live in Denmark. And, the leader of Denmark gave a speech recently at Harvard and said, we're not a socialistic nation at all. We're a market nation. And so you got to understand your history. You got to understand your talking points when it comes to socialism.
If ever people need to hear the unvarnished truth, it is now. There are some subjects that are not politically correct to talk about, but they're urgent. That's why I'm grateful for Endtime magazine. If you're not a subscriber, you're missing information that will really impact your life. Endtime has a bi-monthly magazine that explains how current events are fulfilling Bible prophecy. You can get a 2-year subscription for only $29. You can also get a bulk subscription and pass them out to your church. We have gotten reports that Endtime magazine has caused spiritual awakenings in churches when they see the prophecies being fulfilled right now. You can start your own ministry and leave them in doctors' offices, libraries, laundromats. You never know if you might be responsible for saving someone who is searching for the unvarnished truth. That's what the magazine has done in many lives. Call 1-800-363-8463. That's 1-800-ENDTIME and get your subscription today.
So here's what we'll do. I want to make sure you know how I can prove scripturally that the Antichrist will rule a socialistic one-world governing body. And so I'm going to cover the red aspect of this prophecy because it lets us know clearly that he's going to run a socialistic or communistic one-world governing body. And it's very important. You need to hear the scriptures. So it will be a red kingdom. When you think of red on the political platform, the political, global belief system, red, what do you think of? Communism, socialism. Look back through history. And from the French Revolution on, red It's been a symbol of revolution, war, death, the Red Scare. I mean, a lot of different things. And it's communistic. It's governmental control. The Red Kingdom, when you think about the Antichrist ideology and what he's going to want to do. So, when you're talking about this, just like any other topic in the Bible, when you're seeking a better understanding or the interpretation of a prophecy, you have to look at all the scriptures devoted to that subject. In Revelation 17:3, it mentions, you remember we just talked about the seven-headed, ten-horned beast. What was that? That was the world government, okay? Well, in Revelation 17:3, it mentions that same exact seven-headed, ten-horned beast. And yet it also provides another characteristic to that beast, which allows us to further understand the prophecy. Revelation 17:3 says, "So he carried me away in the Spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit on a scarlet-colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads, 10 horns." So it's the same world-governing beast. From Revelation, we know it's the same one from Revelation 13, 1 through 2. The seven-headed beast is the end-time world government. The entity, this entity, will be the kingdom of the Antichrist. Then Revelation 17:3 says that this kingdom will be a scarlet-colored, or another word for scarlet is red, a red beast. So in this prophecy, the color red is of great significance. And it helps us to understand the political ideology of the kingdom of the Antichrist. And remember, this beast will be on the earth at the time of the second coming of Jesus Christ and in power over this world governing body. If I have time, I'll prove it to you scripturally before we get done. So you say, well, how does this red color on this beast prove the ideology or the belief system, the political belief system of the Antichrist? How? Well, there's another prophecy which helps us answer that question. And it is the 4 horsemen of Revelation chapter 6, verse 1 through 8. And it's the first 4 seals. You understand the book of Revelation has a skeletal structure of 3 groups of 7. The 7 seals, 7 trumpets, 7 vials. The 4 horsemen are the first 4 seals of the 7 seals. And that's found, Revelation 6, 1 through 8 reveals the 4 horses, a white horse, a red horse, black horse, and a pale horse, which many of you that have listened to us over the years, you understand that the pale should have been translated green, because the original Greek word was chloros, which is green. Every other place in the Bible, it was translated as green. The translator looked at that and said, guy, never seen a green horse. So he translated it paler and pale green. But if you look at a Tyndale Bible, he actually translated it correctly. He said a green horse. So, white, red, black, green horse, along with several clues in Revelation 6, 1 through 8 that help us identify what these horses are. So, the point is that what are these colored horses referring to? And I've seen movies and video clips and things of horses riding across the land, killing people and burning stuff up and destroying everything, and that's not what it's going to be like. Okay? And sometimes these movie people get a little carried away, and they, Anyway, the answer to this question is found in another account of this prophecy located in the Old Testament in Zechariah 6, verse 1 through 8. Zechariah saw the same colored horses, but those horses were pulling chariots. And additionally, instead of a pale horse, Zechariah saw a grizzled or a bay horse. And then Zechariah 6, verse 4 through 5, tells us the answer to our question. What do these horses symbolize? The Bible says, and Zechariah said, "And I answered and said unto the angel that talked with me, What are these, Lord? And the angel said unto me, These are the 4 spirits." These 4 horses symbolize 4 spirits of the heavens, which go forth from standing before the Lord of all the earth. So this tells us that the four colored horses of Revelation 6, 1 through 8 symbolize four spirits. These four spirits are the four main ideologies of mankind today. Now, time is going to prevent me, obviously, from providing an exhaustive explanation of all four spirits or these major belief systems in the earth today. And I know this is going to be a commercial, but if you want an in-depth understanding of that prophecy, we've got a DVD, Islam in Bible Prophecy. Call 1-800-363-8463 or go to the Endtime.com website. And I will tell you that three of the spirits are the white horse is Catholicism, black horse capitalism, the pale or green horse is Islamism today. So, for the sake of this program, though, I'm going to focus on the red horse because it helps us understand this world governing body and the significance of the color red. In Revelation chapter 6, verse 3 through 4, it states, "And when he opened the second seal, I heard the second beast say, 'Come and see,' and there went out another horse that was red." And this is going to tell us the significance of the color red on this world governing beast. Red in Bible prophecy represents socialism or communism. So consider this. When you're thinking about these spirits in the world just prior to the second coming of Jesus Christ that go forth into all the earth, what spirit would represent the red horse? There's an international spirit who influences what people believe, how they live, what they do. The red spirit is red China, red Russia, red Romania. It has been associated with revolution for well over 100 years now. When you think about red, it's communism. Communism is commonly associated with the color red. And communism has widespread influence over what people believe, their value system, what they love, what they fight for, what they'll die for. And, you know, a quick example. In his book, Symbols, Myths, and Images of the French Revolution, Essays in Honor of James A. Leith, it was published by a Canadian Plains Research Center, the University of Regina. It reads this: "In the political world, red has powerful connotations. Since the French Revolution, and even more so with the October Revolution of 1917, that's the Bolshevik Revolution, red has meant or symbolized revolution and communism. Red's been the symbol of struggle, blood, and revolutionary rage. In the French Revolution, associations with red started when the National Guard used red flags for danger. When they were about to put down a disorder, the equivalent of reading like the Riot Act. We're going to go in, we're going to handle business. The hostile crowd grabbed the flags, turned them in defiance into the symbols of the popular power. Red became established at that time as the color of revolution, and it was enhanced when revolutionaries started to wear red caps. Everybody understood that's the revolution. The French Revolution started a tradition for the use of red. In 1871, the Paris Commune revolutionaries, they wore red sashes, so everybody could identify them. They've got red sashes on. We know what they're here to do. By 1917, the evolution of the socialist ideology and symbolism in Europe and the commitment to red as the color of revolution, it had reached a point at which when the Russian Bolsheviks, when they had their revolution, they had no choice but to be red because everybody recognized it for what it was. And for opponents, they recognized it as a revolution. In reaction, red has come to mean danger, the red peril, the red menace. Red's under the bed. In the political world, red is never neutral. It's either the greatest good or it's the greatest evil. And people can tell right off the bat what it is. Well, Revelation 6, 3 through 4 elaborated concerning the red horse. It says, "And power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth. from its very outset, from the Bolshevik Revolution in 1917 to the China Revolution, all the revolutions, the Red Revolutions in 1949, the Korean War, Vietnam, the Congo communism. Communism has robbed our world of peace. Think about it. It's all about revolution. And that passage continues by saying that they should kill one another. Not only do communists fight their enemies, but they fight amongst themselves as well. One example, Stalin killed 20 million Russians, his own people, during his reign in the Soviet Union. And over the past 60 years, 60 plus years, 60 million Chinese have been killed in the Cultural Revolution. Now, folks, this is not hundreds and hundreds and light years away. We're talking about in the past 60 years, 60 million people. And the prophecy also says that there was given unto this red horse rider a great sword. A mighty military force backs communism. I mean, who would want to take on China and Russia at the same time? Not me, not the America. And so the Soviet Union's flag, think of it, with its hammer and sickle, the original Soviet Union's flag, it was a hammer and sickle, and it was completely red. Red is the color most commonly associated with communism and socialism. The two ideologies are synonymous. Communism's the political ideology, socialism's the economic system that works hand in hand with communism. This is the red spirit, the red horse, the power of communism. And from these scriptures, we know that the kingdom of the Antichrist will be a socialistic, communistic empire. Remember, Revelation chapter 17:3, the beast was scarlet colored or red. And from the first four seals, the red beast was communistic. It lets us know the end-time world governing body led by the Antichrist will be socialistic or communistic. So why did I want to do a program today? Think about what kind of society we want the United States of America, what direction do we want to be pointed in, and what do we want to hook our trailer to in the end time? Do we want it to be socialistic? I don't. Not knowing that the Antichrist and his world government is going to be socialistic and communistic. I don't want to have socialism in my country. The country that I love. Not in the United States of America, folks. And so I wanted to kind of come together today and talk about socialism, the kingdom of the Antichrist. In the end time, the prophecies are so clear. End-time world government will be a socialistic, communistic government. It's not what I want in my society, and I don't think it's what you want in your society as well, especially in the times just ahead.
This has been End of the Age, brought to you by the faithful partners of Endtime Ministries. If you're not currently a partner with Endtime Ministries, or if you would like more information, we invite you to call us at 1-800-ENDTIME. That's 1-800-363-8463, or visit us online at endtime.com.
Thank you for watching. If you liked this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel and like our Facebook page.